as I mentioned before, I've been a math teacher for all of my 21 years of teaching, except for this one. I miss it tremendously, and I'm so excited about the possibility of building a new math program that really focuses on best practices in education. So our plan is that we are going to have the core of our math program to be a class called Integrated Math. Integrated Math is going to be a class that supports students at multiple mathematics, ranging from students who still need to develop their understanding of Algebra 1 all the way up through students who are confident in some topics of geometry and Algebra 2. So students will stay in integrated math until they are ready for their pre-calculus year, which will be classes that are beyond that. I'll talk about that in a second. The integrated math part of our program is really, I think, the part that is most innovative. And so students will stay in integrated math they'll be in integrated math for sure in ninth grade. And then most students will stay in integrated math for at least 2 years, though some students may potentially move on to integrated math as early as 10th or beyond integrated math in 10th grade. And some students may stay in integrated math for all 4 years. Okay. In ninth grade, integrated math is going to be combined with a class in computational thinking, and that will be a year-long class that combines those two classes. So the way, oh no, okay. So I'm sorry if my sound, if you can't hear anything that I'm saying, I'm not sure that I can improve my sound so much, but I will, if you're like, I didn't hear that, just please do, make a note in the chat or raise your hand and I'll feel free to repeat. Okay. So in the ninth grade, the integrated math program is going to be combined with computational thinking and will be a year-long class. Moving forward, students will typically take integrated math for 2 out of the 3 trimesters of the year, right? That would be a full year of mathematics instruction. It would be 2 trimesters of integrated math. The way that the class is going to be set up is that there's going to be modules that students work on together with a group of peers that are studying the same type of, or ready to study the same type of stuff at that moment. There's going to be 3 different types of modules that are within the class. There's going to be core modules, and these are the center of the content that goes with Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, right? So the key topics that, if you say that you've taken an Algebra 2 class, like everyone is going to assume that you know that will be part of the core modules that you need to complete during that class. And in order to advance beyond the integrated math program, you would need to demonstrate mastery of all of the content in the core modules. There's also going to be adjunct modules, and these are not going to necessarily be required to complete in order to move out of the integrated math program, but these are ones that might be assigned to a student or a group of students who perhaps need extra support in developing skills in order to be successful with a more abstract concept. So some of these adjunct modules will serve a purpose of building a stronger foundation in order to be successful. Some adjunct modules will serve the purpose of providing extra instruction for students who perhaps have, they're in their year of integrated math, they've finished all their core modules and they, there's still another month left in the year. There's going to be more extensions that they can do in the context of an adjunct module. We'll also have collective modules where we kind of pause on the individual instruction and we all learn something together. And there will be one of those per term, generally throughout every term of integrated math. So I've put together, I'm not sure how interesting this is going to be to you, but I just in case this is, and we'll see. I've put together some kind of trajectories that a student might take through the integrated math program, and I can send you the links to this, this document. Don't feel like you need to write it down right now. But for a student who in 8th grade is taking a pre-algebra course, typically I would imagine that they would spend 3 years in algebra or in integrated math before moving on to classes beyond that, if they're a typically paced learner for mathematics study, right? So some examples of what they might do if they're on kind of what I would say the most typical pace, the first year they might study 5 core modules and 1 adjunct module. The second year they might do 6 core modules and 1 adjunct module. And the third year they might do 4 core modules and 3 adjunct modules, right? Like that's, typically I would imagine students would cover, 6, 7 modules a year of stuff that is relatively new to them, okay? A student who needs a slower pace, more support, more background, foundational development might take 4 years to get through the core modules. That's fine. A student who is really ambitious and really into math and wants to go faster might be able to move through the core modules at a faster pace and do fewer of the adjunct modules and be able to get through the content in 2 years. Or another possibility is because after 9th grade, it's scheduled trimester by trimester, you might be able to do it in 2.5 years instead of, 3, right? That's a possibility in terms of how you could speed things up. Okay. Again, don't worry if you haven't seen this. Possibilities for a student who has Algebra 1 in 8th grade, right? Kind of the same thing, only moved a year up. The one thing I want to point out is that students who have already studied some of the content that is incorporated in the integrated math system, right? My expectation would be that instead of having like a placement test, students come in and we have to figure out what the right class is for them. Instead, they'll just be able to blow through the first modules of the class as review in a really quick way, right? So that it will be a good way to review the content, but you won't need to spend any more time on that review than you need in order to refresh your memory on it. So some students who are really confident about the content that they've already learned in 8th grade might be able to just come in and be like, oh yeah, totally got this. I'll take the assessment today, right? And then, take a 30-minute assessment, confirm that yes, you really understand what's going on, move along, right? So the first year of integrated math, you might be able to demonstrate mastery of lots of the modules in that first year because you've already had some experience with the content of those, okay? And then kind of get onto a pace of doing, 6 or 7 modules a year, okay? Again, our plan is to offer up through Calculus 1 in-house, right? So the year after integrated math, we'll do one class, which is a statistical reasoning class, and that is going to be a graduation requirement. That is something that's really important to me because I think statistical thinking is way more important for everyday life than a lot of the math that is typically taught in high school. So that's going to be part of our core graduation requirements, is that statistical thinking class. But we'll also teach a pre-calculus class and a calculus 1 class. Those classes will not be required for graduation, but available to students. Second year calculus is something that we'll offer in partnership with Global Online Academy. So they have a multivariable calculus class that students can take, offered year-long, or it's a year-long class through Global Online Academy that students can use to study second year calculus if that's the pace that they're on. And students who've already had a year past Algebra 1 in middle school, there's also ways that they can be successful and learn a lot of new things in the 9th grade year and then move on to math after that if that's what is right for them. So the question in the chat is about what does it actually look like in terms of how is everybody's working at the level that's right for them. So what I'm envisioning, and again, this is a vision because I haven't done it, but is that when students come in at the beginning of 9th grade, the first few weeks will essentially be kind of just like a big sieve, right? Where I'll start off and be like, hey, here's some information, right? Here's module number 1, right? What I'm going to have you do, just DIY, see how that goes, right? What do you remember? What do you not remember? More like a conventional class that first day. And my expectation is that there will be some students who are like, got it, totally done, understand. And there will be some students who are like, I've never seen this before. And then there will be some students who are like, oh yeah, I saw this. And I kind of remember systems of equations, but kind of not, right? And then a little bit of more structured review. So what will happen is that the students who are most confident in the material, right, who finish that together, will kind of break off, right, and move on to another module, right, where they can try that again and then see, how do they understand. Students who are completely new to the content will spend quite a while learning the content on their own, and the actual learning will be a really well uh, organized like learning guide with here's here are the objectives that we have. Here are different tools that you can use to go seek out that knowledge, online with teacher, right? Like come see me, like this is going to be a teacher based instructional 20-minute lesson, right? Like we're going to schedule that for tomorrow when you get here and you'll spend 20 minutes working with me on that. Do you see what I'm saying? And then like also just lots of individual coaching. um, so in terms of what curriculum or philosophy, I think that the one that we're drawing most heavily from is, in terms of the content, is the New York State Engage curriculum. I don't want to say that we are going to be following it exactly, because we're definitely not. And that content is designed to be taught in a more conventional class structure, right? Where there's like an algebra one, here's the 5 modules of algebra one, here's the 5 modules of geometry, here's the 5 modules of algebra two. We're drawing from their kind of organization of the modules, but we're not necessarily going to be presenting it exactly in that way. And it is going to be set up to be more kind of a self-exploration with teacher support as needed to get through it. So I think that in terms of the depth of how this is fleshed out, not quite there yet. But I think that is something, I mean, this is an area of passion for me. And honestly, the way that I kind of run this is that um, like when I am tired of dealing with the insurance and other parts of the starting a school job, then I'm like, oh, my bonus is I get to go work on math for an hour. So this is, I think that this is going to be really cool. And I'm really excited about the possibilities that will allow students to both access information at a different pace than standard, because that's a real problem with standard math instruction, is that everybody takes the test on the same day, right? Like that's ridiculous when you think about how much diversity there is in terms of how students tackle information. And and this and this will be like an opportunity for students to really take as much time as they need in order to develop the depth of understanding that we're hoping that they'll be able to have to be successful moving forward, and take away that pressure of, you know, I have to learn how to put the right answer down, even if I don't really know why that works the way that it does. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that can be a real problem with math, is that students figure out enough that they can be successful tomorrow in producing the work that is supposed to be produced on this assessment, but they don't really know it well enough that they can retain it moving forward. And that this will be a way of removing that need of like, there's this one moment where you have to know it and then you don't ever have to know it again. You can promptly go forget it, right? So that I think is something that we're really working to overcome with this. So going back to this one here. So the ninth grade, this integrated math is going to be combined with computational thinking. So essentially, those collective modules for the ninth grade are all going to be focused on ways of problem solving in a computational way. So I will say that I am not a computer science teacher. That's my area of expertise. I have some expertise in it, but it's not my strength. I'm working with a teacher who has more experience as a computer science instructor to help develop that curriculum, but it's still in progress, right? Computational thinking is something that is really important for students in order to, this is not really about coding, right? Like this is not like we're going to be, spending this time, learning how to, I don't even know, do a particular coding language. It's not going to be a computer science class as much as it's going to be, what are ways that you can use computational strategies to solve problems? And it will involve getting familiar with certain tools that students, I think, are often scared of in high school, like things like spreadsheets, things like, what does it look like to do modeling, right? What does it mean to try to solve a problem through trial and error? What does it mean to, test an algorithm effectively to see if it's working? These are the types of things that we're really going to be tackling in that computational thinking class. And again, I just want to make sure that I am clear that this is something that's still very much in development in terms of what the individual lessons and curriculum for that and what we're going to do in each of the different parts of it. That's still in development. But I do think that there's a really deep body of computational thinking as a foundation for high school math and science that is being developed right now, right? Like in the last like 5 years, that has become increasingly um, seen as relevant for success in high school.